It's great to see you all here. My name is Susanna. I'm a compulsive eater. I measure 3 meals a day off the copyrighted grey sheet. I write them down and commit them to my sponsor. I eat what I say I'm going to eat no matter what, and I don't eat between meals no matter what. And abstinence and sobriety are the most important things to me today. And my abstinence date is the 15th of February 2020. So, today I've been kind of contemplating a bit what things were like this time last year. And actually, I was thinking, well, of course, this time last year, actually, I'd already taken the plunge. But in the days leading up to it, I was just so full of fear about leaving behind my old food life and what was I going to do? There was so much uncertainty about the future and what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I knew I just had to take that leap of faith, really, and get going in GreySheet, and then I could see what happens. And it just reminds me of a great scene in Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail or whatever it was. And there's a chasm that he has to cross to get to the Holy Grail in the sort of action sequence of the movie. And he has to just have faith and takes a step out into thin air, because that's what it says in the book that he's got. And as he takes that step, the camera angle changes to show that actually there is a path, but he couldn't see it because it was so well camouflaged against the rock face of the opposite side of the chasm. And I felt like that. I felt like I was taking a step out of into the unknown, but I just had to have faith and just trust that the next step I took was going to land on firm ground, and by God it did. I got to a meeting, I got a sponsor at my first meeting, and I've stuck with that sponsor for the last year, and I just did as I was told. I came into this program after 21 years of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had exactly the same feelings when I first went into rehab and a 12-step rehab as I had with the food, that fear of the unknown and what on earth was going to happen to my life, and what was I going to do with myself in the absence of my drug of choice. And what I very quickly realized in GreySheet was that actually my drug of choice had always been food. It just switched to alcohol when I was old enough to drink. And, once I kicked the booze, then gradually the food crept in, not straight away, and not in a kind of dramatic way either, really. I think my top weight, I'm 5'11". My top weight was about 220 pounds, which is a lot, but I carried an awful lot of that on my back. And people would look at me and say, oh, well, you're not really that fat, but I felt fat inside. I felt fat in my head. And I had the behaviors that went with it as well. I was a binge eater. I was an overeater. I was certainly a sweet sugar addict. And I ate an awful lot. I concealed a lot of my eating, a lot of car eating. And something my sponsor pointed out to me when I gave her my life story was that I was an exercise bulimic, which I hadn't really ever heard about. But I had been doing a lot of, I've been in the army for a long time, and it's very acceptable there to do extreme amounts of exercise and be praised for it, and I fell into that category as well. So my brain was just a constant clockwork of machinery going round and round, working out how much I'd eaten, working out how much exercise I'd had, and kind of offsetting everything and trying to kind of offset the food with other things, activity and overwork and all sorts of things. And it was just getting me down, and I couldn't really understand why after 20 years of sobriety I kind of just felt sepia. I felt disappointed with myself. I felt not restless, irritable and discontent, and not close to a drink, but I just felt like this wasn't what it was like in early sobriety. And I'm not talking about pink cloud early sobriety. I'm talking about kind of the first 3 to 5 years of my sobriety, where I was doing or had done the steps, and you know, life was good. And then it kind of just went to shit slightly in in the preceding 5 to 10 years. And you know, I just I wasn't sure what I was really doing. But anyway, I retired from the army. I decided, with such a big change, because I'd been in that organization for 30 years and I wasn't sure how I was going to react to civilian life. So I got myself a counselor before anything drastic happened, or, you know, I fell off a cliff. I thought, well, I'll start seeing somebody, and then I don't have to kind of tell her my life story in a crisis, if a crisis of, you know, a readjustment crisis occurs at all. Anyway, she got me onto Julia Cameron's Creative Recovery. And that was absolutely fantastic. If you don't know it, I would strongly recommend it. Julia Cameron, she got me on that. I was journaling every day, but I wasn't doing the artist's date, which is where you take your artist child out for a little creative time and fun time. And what I found is that every time I tried to do that, I was just having an argument with my artist child about what to eat. And so I said, well, no, I'm not going to have an artist date if all you want to do is lie on the sofa and eat cold, frozen things that we don't eat. But that actually was my idea of a good fun time, was just sitting on the sofa with a tub of that frozen stuff. So I thought, I need to get my head together. I need to get this sorted out, because I don't want to be arguing for the rest of my life with myself and my inner artist child about food. And I had been in an OA meeting 10 years previously, because I realized at some level, obviously, that food was my problem. And a girl, I've shared this before, but a girl came into the meeting absolutely furious, having flounced out of GreySheet because she had been put back to day one by her sponsor for eating a small item of fruit that we don't eat between meals. And she was slagging off GreySheet, but it's interesting because that just sowed the seed for me. And I don't know how or why, but when I thought I need to get my head together around food and I need to sort my shit out, GreySheet popped into my head. And then, you know, I started looking it up. I started getting into all sorts of sites about a coin collection magazine. And then I found GreySheet and the meetings, and then, you know, the rest is history, really. So I got on here and I started doing what I was told. And I remember in my early days of sobriety, somebody saying to me, just do as you're effing told. You know, do what your sponsor says and you'll be fine. And that for me was really important, and I'm good at doing what I'm told. I'm good at taking orders. I've been in the army for 30 years. I can do that. And what I was completely unprepared for was the fact that my head cleared really quickly. And I was eating vast quantities of delicious food. I was quite anxious that I was eating far too much food. As it happened, I went, you know, I lost weight quite quickly, and I went sailing past my goal weight. And I'm now kind of on maintenance and desperately trying to maintain some semblance of my current weight. So that absolutely amazed me, just eating 3 meals a day with nothing in between. You know, I'd never done that before, or at least if I had, there was always a huge amount of anxiety about finding the perfect food combination that would get me from meal to meal without feeling hungry. But of course, hungry, what is that? I was belly hungry. I don't think I ever was really, but I was head hungry. You know, I grew up with a lot of childhood emotional neglect. I didn't necessarily want materially, you know, I had a pony, for fuck's sake. Sorry, I had a pony. So, you know, but I was sent away to school at a very young age. My mother wasn't emotional, but neither of my parents were emotionally available to me. And there was quite a lot of bullying going on at school, and actually with my step siblings at home. And it's that childhood emotional neglect, I think, which just kind of combined with a genetic propensity, which I definitely have from both sides of my family, for addictive behavior. You know, it just manifests itself first in the food. Thank you, Suzanne. Then in the drink, and then back in the food again. So I still need to do a lot of work on myself, but I am just, you know, I've got that space between my ears. I've got that clarity. I'm not wasting time drifting between the toaster in the kitchen, the fridge, and the sitting room. You know, I'm not wasting money. At every garage I drove past, I would stop and I'd fill up with like 2 liters of petrol, just so that I could get into the garage shop and then buy my usual round of, I had a particular set of snacks that we don't eat that I used to buy in garage shops. And I suddenly had energy. You know, I just used to walk around with spectacles made of tired the whole time. And I don't have that now. I sleep well and I sleep guilt-free. I think I have a guilt-free life, and that is just so phenomenally powerful. But, you know, I hear other people here just talking about peeling back the layers. You know, I've done my layer of sobriety and the 12 steps and the service and all that sort of thing. And it's wonderful. I love it. But, you know, I need to take things further. And I think with GreySheet, what I've discovered is the importance of positive psychology, you know, and this is not something that just comes to me when everything else is good, you know. So humility, gratitude, dignity, these are things that I have to work for. They are not things that are just going to happen because the rest of my life is on an even keel. There are specific actions that I need to take in order to develop those psychological habits and traits. And I think what I do have now is much, much more direction. You know, sobriety gave me the direction in terms of the 12-step recovery. GreySheet gives me 12-step recovery, but it also, for me, has given me additional signposts, you know, which is to develop my skills in humility. I have 6: humility, gratitude, dignity, health, happiness, and there was another one, security. That's right. So thank you to my sponsor for that guided meditation with that lady on Sunday one day. So those are my 6 things which I need to work for. I have happiness, I have health. My God, it's so nice to just know that I'm eating the right food, the best possible food that my body needs to keep me as healthy as it can be. You know, no crap, no pro-inflammatories. You know, every book I read, this is normal eating. You know, this is the healthy food. This is 3 weighed and measured meals a day is the absolute ultimate. And, you know, I always wanted to eat like a normal person, but I never knew what a normal person ate like. I had an idea, but when I asked a friend of mine who I consider to be a normal person how he ate or his family ate, he said, oh yeah, well, we have 3 meals a day and we don't eat between meals and I don't eat sweets. I thought, oh, that's what I'm doing. So now I'm eating like a normal person. You know, granted, I have to weigh and measure my food because I have no visual reference point for portion size or anything like that. And I have to commit my food and make myself accountable to my food because over the years, I've damaged my ability to make independent decisions around food. And that's fine. You know, if that's all I have to do, my God, I'm not on dialysis. You know, I'm not taking angina medication. There are so many things that I'm not having to do. And, you know, all I have to do is this one thing. I have to write stuff down in a book, you know, and I have to make a phone call. And I have to just prepare food. And, you know, it's a joy and a pleasure. You know, I'm a perfectionist, but at 3 times a day, I get the opportunity
1 minute
to be
left.
perfect. Thank you, Suzanne. You know, to actually get that 4.0, that 8.0, the 12.0, and fiddling around, sort of scooping off a little bit of stuff abstinent stuff, breakfast stuff, you know, just getting exactly on the 0.0. And then what I find, and this is a top tip for all you beginners out there, when you get your 8.0, when you get when you get your 0.0, zero it or take it off the scale immediately. Otherwise you get electronic drift and then it just gets really complicated. So just take your stuff off when you get your 8.0. You know, I'm just really looking forward to another year of Grey Sheet. I'm doing service and I've got a sponsee, you know, I've joined a committee. And I don't think they know what they've let themselves in for, but there you go. I do my prayer and meditation. And for me, it's the consistency and the continuity, not just of the food, but in my life. And that's what I find with Grey Sheet, is that this is an analogy for life, you know. So I weigh and measure my life. I'm more balanced. You know, I'm balanced on the scales, the big scales, the little scales, and in my life, you know, I have consistency and continuity with my food. And yeah, most of the time I eat the same shit, but you know, I love it. And I don't care if I'm eating the same stuff. It's safe. I feel safe with my food. I never felt safe with my food. And that must be the end of me now, Suzanne. So I'll finish there. But thank you, everybody here, for making my Grey Sheet journey such a great journey and for helping me and supporting me through this year. Thank you.